Are Iran and Russia secretly developing nuclear weapons? This is a question that has been on our minds for quite some time, so let's try to figure it out. Iran's confrontation with the collective West, Israel, and part of its own society against the backdrop of mass protests in recent years has become one of the key topics in global politics. This is not just about an ideological conflict in which Tehran regularly employs harsh anti Western rhetoric, but also about a deeper and potentially dangerous issue: the Iranian authorities' desire to preserve and develop their nuclear program, which could lead to the emergence of yet another nuclear state in the world. The international community is particularly concerned by the fact that Iran is seen as a radically unpredictable player. If it were to acquire nuclear weapons, the consequences could affect not only the Middle East region, but also the global security system. At the same time, according to Western journalists and experts, Iran is not capable of independently advancing its nuclear program to the point of creating a fully fledged weapon. To achieve this, it would need external patronage, a state that possesses the necessary technologies, experience, and political will. Against this backdrop, there are increasing suggestions about the possible role of Russia as Iran's key partner in the nuclear sphere. Since the start of the war against Ukraine, Moscow has been actively seeking allies and partners aiming to form an alternative to the Western coalition. However, Russia's actual successes in this direction appear rather limited. The Venezuelan regime has collapsed, Cuba is on the verge of an energy crisis, and China and India, while demonstrating formal neutrality, are simultaneously reducing their purchases of Russian oil, fearing American tariffs and secondary sanctions. In this configuration, Iran remains one of the few countries that is unlikely to refuse cooperation with Moscow in the foreseeable future, provided the current government in Tehran stays in power. That is why, in this context, Iran is considered Russia's main ally outside the post-Soviet space. A key question arises: is Putin ready, in response to such loyalty, to deepen cooperation in the sensitive nuclear sphere? You will find out about this in this video, and I immediately right away ask you to like and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. And write to us in the comments how you assess the strengthening of this cooperation and whether you think Iran and Russia could actually create nuclear weapons. And I'll try to tell you everything we've managed to find out ourselves. So let's get started. Back in November 2025, the International Atomic Energy Agency adopted a resolution calling on Iran for immediate and full cooperation. The IAEA is paying special attention to the fate of about 400 kilograms of uranium enriched up to 60%, which, according to the agency, is still being stored in Iranian warehouses. This situation is further complicated by the fact that after the 12-day war between Iran and Israel in June, Tehran did not grant inspectors access to the nuclear facilities that had been targeted in the strikes. Against this backdrop, Moscow, on the contrary, is announcing an expansion of cooperation with Iran in the nuclear sphere. In mid-November, Russia's ambassador to Tehran, Alexei Dedov, stated that bilateral cooperation had reached an unprecedented level, emphasizing that Russia supports Iran in seeking solutions to issues related to its nuclear program and intends to continue this support. The practical substance of Russian-Iranian cooperation in the nuclear sphere remains ambiguous. At the end of September, Moscow and Tehran signed a memorandum of intent regarding the construction of new nuclear power plants. The state corporation, Rosatom, signed a contract worth $25 billion with the company Iran Hormuz, which provides for the construction of 4 new nuclear power plants on Iranian territory. These agreements have become a formal confirmation of the close ties between the two countries in the field of nuclear energy. And here, it's also worth turning to what the experts have to say. So, according to the prominent Middle East expert David Jalilvan, who currently heads the Berlin-based strategic consulting company known as Orient Matters, Russia remains Iran's most significant and important international partner, specifically when it comes to the complex development of its national nuclear program. At the same time, he notes that when it comes to the further development of Iran's nuclear infrastructure, Moscow has so far limited itself to statements and promises, while actual progress remains minimal for now. To provide a specific example, Jalilvan clearly recalls the massive project to build a second nuclear reactor in Bushehr, which was officially announced back in the year 2016. But unfortunately, it has still not been fully implemented to this day. The expert also expresses doubt about the swift implementation of the new memorandum. In his opinion, Russia is not interested in significantly strengthening Iran's strategic position in the Middle East. This is due to Moscow's need to balance its relations with Israel, the Gulf countries, and Turkey, which traditionally view Iran's nuclear program as a direct threat to regional security. The limited nature of Russia's actual support was also evident during this 12-day war between Iran and Israel, which took place in June. Despite the previously signed 20-year strategic partnership agreement, which provides for military and economic cooperation, Tehran received virtually no tangible assistance from Moscow. At the same time, during Russia's war against Ukraine, Iran supplied drones and weaponry, becoming one of the Kremlin's key partners in this war. In exchange for this support, Iran was counting heavily on receiving advanced Russian military equipment, specifically the sophisticated Su-35 fighter jets, which are essential to modernize and upgrade its aging air force capabilities. However, during the conflict with Israel, these aircraft were never delivered to Tehran. The hostilities revealed vulnerabilities in Iran's air defense system, which only increased Tehran's interest in military and technical cooperation with Moscow. Against this backdrop, according to Western media, Iran has intensified its diplomatic contacts with Russia. In particular, this refers to contacts held in a closed format. It is reported that there have been secret missions by high-ranking representatives of Tehran to Moscow with the aim of strengthening the country's military capabilities and obtaining support on issues related to the nuclear program and air defense. According to The Times, Iran has intensified closed diplomatic contacts with Russia aimed at strengthening its defense capabilities and obtaining support on issues related to its nuclear program. According to journalists, a key role in these negotiations is played by Ali Larijani, senior advisor to Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, former speaker of the Iranian parliament and one of the main negotiators on nuclear issues. It is reported that Larijani makes secret flights between Iran and Russia to meet with high-ranking Russian officials. According to Western intelligence, these visits take place under heightened secrecy due to concerns about increased Western sanctions. Larijani is considered a person close to the leadership of the Islamic Republic and capable of achieving set goals. At the end of 2024, he repeatedly visited Damascus and Beirut, attempting to consolidate the so-called resistance forces after the assassination of Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah by Israel. The Times, in turn, further observes and reports that his official visit to Moscow serves as a clear indication of a deepening of Iranian-Russian relations and a significant strengthening of their strategic mutual leverage and influence. Sources in Western intelligence report that Tehran is seeking further assistance from Russia in matters of nuclear expertise. At the same time, there are concerns that given Moscow's dependence on Iranian supplies of missiles and drones, Russia may be willing to cross previously established red lines regarding Iran's nuclear program. At the same time, former NATO Director for Nuclear Non-Proliferation William Alburke notes that Iranian specialists could gain significant benefits even from short-term visits to Russian nuclear facilities, despite the fact that Iran formally does not require assistance to develop nuclear weapons. The situation is unfolding against the backdrop of Iran's deteriorating economic situation due to severe Western sanctions and the weakening of its position in the Middle East. At the same time, in August 2025, the former head of the main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, Kyrylo Budanov, stated that Russia would not transfer technologies to Iran. These technologies, of course, refer to those capable of accelerating the development of nuclear weapons. He also noted that in the case of North Korea, Russia is providing assistance in modernizing nuclear weapons delivery systems, since the DPRK already possesses a nuclear arsenal. The international diplomatic climate surrounding Iran also remains tense. In 2015, Tehran reached an agreement with the United States of America, Russia, China, the United Kingdom, France, and Germany, agreeing to limit its nuclear program in exchange for the lifting of sanctions. However, in 2018, Donald Trump withdrew from this agreement. Later, he stated that he had sent a letter to Ayatollah Ali Khamenei with a proposal to resume negotiations, emphasizing that there was a military option and an option to reach an agreement. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian responded that negotiations are impossible under threats. Additional irritation in Tehran was caused by a closed meeting of 6 members of the United Nations Security Council dedicated to Iran's nuclear program. China, Russia, and Iran simultaneously held trilateral consultations in Beijing, where Beijing expressed hope for the creation of conditions for an appropriate dialogue. At the same time, the IAEA had previously warned about a sharp acceleration in uranium enrichment in Iran to almost 90%, despite Tehran's ongoing official statements about having no intention to develop nuclear weapons. We will continue to monitor the situation. As soon as we detect any changes, we will inform you immediately. To make sure you don't miss anything, be sure to subscribe. See you in the next broadcasts. My name is Anastasia Husarieva. Take care of yourselves and wash your hands with soap. Bye bye, everyone.